So tell me your relationship story. How did you meet?
Go for
I'm
it.
going to let her tell it.
Well, we first met at an ASU Institute dance. Anyone who doesn't know what Institute is, it's like church class for college kids. Neither of us were attending ASU at the time. We were just there with other friends. It was just kind of the cool place to hang out. In fact, we just drove by it the other day. It's over in Tempe. And we were there at the dance, and we have mutual friends, and we didn't know each other at the time, and just kind of were near each other because our friends were talking, and I kind of was looking at him, checking him out.
So I asked her to dance.
He was new.
I asked her to dance. Well, come to find out, I had asked her to dance before, but she had cut her hair since then.
I was in beauty school.
So now her hair was short. And so I didn't recognize her. She recognized me and asked her to dance. Then I asked her to go for a ride in my Jeep.
Oh, sure. I love Jeeps.
Yeah. But I liked her a lot. I was really impressed with her. So, the Jeep ride was not the normal Jeep ride. And I just said, hey, would you like to go out? And I think I called her the next day.
The next day, I was shocked. I thought, I'm never going to hear from this guy. There's no way.
Wow.
And my mom's like, hey, some guy named Mark called for you. I about fell over. I was like, are you serious? I went over and checked the caller ID.
And then
it was there.
It was in December. It was beginning of December.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on a date and went really well. So over the next 2 weeks, we went out several more times. But I was already scheduled to leave. I had already had a plane ticket to go to Panama. My family lived in Panama. I was going to go there for work. And so I went down to Panama a few weeks later. So we had a couple weeks of dating. Then I moved to Panama. We stayed in contact a little bit. It's not like it is now. Like back then, phone calls were very expensive.
It was like $2.99 to connect and 25 cents a minute to talk on the
probably
phone
more than
international.
that.
Wow.
It was probably way more than that.
It probably was. We did talk though. We talked on Christmas.
We talked like once or twice and then wrote a few letters. Younger listeners probably don't know what that means. Like you actually write on paper and
with a pen.
With a pen and send it. Yeah.
What year was this?
This was in
92?
94, 93, 94.
Yeah, 93.
Okay.
So coming out of 93, I just got home from my mission, then into 94. And then I was playing baseball, got scouted by the Royals and the Giants, came back to look at going to playing for the Giants and went out there. There was like 100 guys out there. I was like, oh, no, this is not for, I'm going to do other stuff. And so dated her for 2 more weeks and proposed to her.
Wow.
It was
That's
really,
pretty cool.
but it didn't feel
That's fast.
It didn't feel fast.
That's the key is like if you feel it, then you feel it, and you move forward and you work through the rest of it. If you're waiting for it to line up perfectly and for you to have all the money that you want and to be in the situation you want, it just really doesn't typically happen. And by the time it does, by then you might have grown apart.
Yeah.
And no longer the relationship falls apart anyway, where it would have probably survived had you grown together through those things.
That's a good point. And a lot of people need to hear that because they, they think it has to be perfect.
Yeah. You think you have to own a house. Your
Right.
bank account has to have so much money in it.
Finish
and college. And hey, that's nice. But I'll tell you what, we experienced things in life that were hard. And we're going to
talk
them together. So,
all right, we're going to talk about that.
So we go on this date and it wasn't anything special. I think we went out fast food and then we went to a movie and the movie was 8 seconds. Not that the movie has anything to do with it. Nothing special on the date, but I got home from that date and I knew without a shadow of a doubt, this is who I was supposed to marry. Started off the date thinking I was going to, cool it off. Having wanted to let her down easy, and then which would have totally blindsided her.
It would have. It was all the good making out. Really, was what sealed the deal. Honestly.
And then, and the next morning, that night I came home from the date, and I said to my mom, "It's like, hey, are you busy tomorrow?" And she's like, "No." "Oh yeah, I'm leaving to California." I said, "I think I'm going to go look for a ring, and I think I'm going to propose to Janelle." And that was Saturday, and Sunday was Easter morning, and I proposed to her.
Wow. Okay, so now what has been the greatest obstacle you guys have faced together?
Life.
I think the hardest thing is the series of bad things. You know what I mean? It seems like sometimes it just seems like you never catch a break. You know,
Yeah.
you go through those years where you feel like every couple months some new tragedy's happening, some new money struggle or some new kid struggle or some new job thing. And it just when you just feel like you can't get ahead, I think that's the hardest thing is more of a accumulation of a bunch of small things
Yeah.
where you just feel like you're just getting kicked in the stomach when you're down all the time.
You know,
That's our hard.
we've kind of hit it together in life. And so as opposed to letting these challenges you face in life, whether it be with your kids or those types of things, and we've had all of them, instead of letting it divide us, you know, we worked through it together and we became stronger through all those things.
Has there been a time where you would look back and say, yeah, that almost broke us?
We had a low point though. We almost kind of laughed about it just because it was so bad. But I mean, in a nutshell, we had lost everything. We had moved back to Arizona from Utah. We had declared bankruptcy. We were able to save our car in the bankruptcy. The week before, we had to go back to bankruptcy court to change it over to a different type of bankruptcy. We didn't have the money to go. And we just looked at each other like, we're such losers that we don't have the money to go to bankruptcy court.
Like in the bankruptcy
that is
was
a new
because
low that I never thought I would reach.
and the bankruptcy was not because we were frivolous spenders. It was because we tried to start a business and it failed.
Yeah.
And we did a chapter 13. We paid $900 a month for over 2 years. And we realized we weren't any closer to getting out from underneath it.
We couldn't rent a house. We were living with this
So
mom.
finally we
We're like,
decided to convert it to a chapter 7. So we had to go to St. George, Utah, because we lived in Utah when we first filed. And when I'm telling you this story, it's going back to your question. This didn't break us. It just was these times where you're just like, it was one of the really low points.
where you just feel like we're going to have to completely starting
And so
from
we
scratch.
had to go, we had gotten our title like a week before that
Wow.
for the vehicle. So we went straight to a title loan company and got a loan on that so that
which
we could
feels
go.
terrible.
Yeah.
Felt
So that
terrible.
we could
It's
go
like
to
40%,
bankruptcy
right?
court.
30% interest.
I don't
Oh, it
even-
took us years to pay it off.
Yeah.
It took us years to pay it off. And that was a low, like it's a really low time, but
Yeah.
we committed in the beginning. Both of us are people of commitment. Like we committed that divorce was not an option. I think if you always leave it on the table, then that's what leaves the door open. Like we didn't just leave the doors open. We drywalled every door frame in and there was no, like
No
there was
escape.
no other doors.
Well, I think what we've realized too, going through all that stuff, we're much stronger together as a team than we would be individually.
Yeah.
much, much stronger as
Well,
a
and
team.
people hit these troubles in life and then they think it's going to be better outside of that.
Yeah.
When in reality, I can't even, the thought of going out and trying to date again sounds miserable to me.
Right.
Like that sounds terrible. I mean, once you turn on the light and you see the monsters for what they are instead of your imagination, you can attack them a lot easier.
Yeah.
Imagination kills you more than anything. But once you realize that those fears aren't legitimate fears anymore,
Right.
then you can push through it.
And then the light at the end of the tunnel starts to grow and you get more hope. And then time passes and you realize, all right, I'm past that. And you move on to the next challenge.
And you have to really get in
But it's a
touch
lot of
with,
work.
you have to really become comfortable with you, yourself, and know who you are. And you have to trust that God or the universe or whatever you believe in is going to work it out on the back end. Too many people get so focused, and it's easy to do, trust me, on what other people think and wanting to explain themselves for things and this and that. And in the end, you're just like, we just are like, we'll just be us.
Yeah.
And if you like it, we hope you do. If you don't, we understand.
So, Janelle, for you, how has it impacted? Because I'm curious about your perception, or no, perspective is the word. How has it impacted you, him becoming sheriff and the limelight? What do you personally, how do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, you never know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Which is probably good.
Yeah, it's really good.
But it makes me more proud of him. I could have maybe guessed that he would do what he's doing, but I mean, it's really cool to watch him do what he's doing. I don't think people understand how difficult it is to get on Fox News or where, live TV,
Right.
and just spit out talking points like you're talking to your buddy, and not even saying not even miss a beat.
That's a good point. You're very articulate.
Very
Well, thank you.
articulate.
They don't tell you the questions up front either. So
Yeah.
like you're
off the
you're
cuff.
looking at a phone and you can't even see them, and all of a sudden they start asking you questions that you kind of have an idea what they
Right.
might talk about, but that's it.
Right.
So it's been good for me. It's easier for me
Yeah.
to be supportive, keep the home stuff going, kind of deal with my side of the family life, because I believe so strongly in what he's doing, and I think he's doing such a great job that
Thank you.
You're welcome, honey. It helps me do what I need to do.
Good.
And we're patriots.
Good.
We're all
Yeah.
diehard Americans in our family. And so we understand that liberty, freedom, America has a cost.
Yeah.
We have forgot that as Americans, that this country was built on people who dedicated their lives and their fortunes that we might be free, and that there are people that take that for granted. And we understand that some families have to make a sacrifice. Who am I as a man to let somebody else's family do that and take that? I'm willing to do it, and because somebody has to do it. Well, and this life is about being the best you can be.
Mm-hmm.
We're all sent here to excel, to challenge ourselves, to bring out those talents and gifts that you were blessed with at birth. It is your job to do that. It is not fair of a spouse to constantly want that other spouse home or whatever, to be selfish, to take them in, to not allow them to develop into being the best that they can be. Being the best takes work. It takes time. It takes sacrifice away from your family. It takes a lot of things. I don't hold Janelle back. She doesn't hold me back. And because we understand that this life is a blip on the screen, but our ability to go tell your maker that you were the best that you could be, that you didn't waste any moments, and that I supported anybody that was willing to do that, I think that's crucial. I see all too often too many spouses. I know a lot of wives are like, I want my husband home, and want him home at a certain time and want him sitting there. And guess
you
what?
have to come home and help me with these kids. I can't take anymore. It's like, well, it's 1:00.
Yeah.
Or you can't go
So-
do that. I don't want you doing this. I don't want you taking that risk. I'm sorry. They're going to have some explaining to do as to why they clip the wings of their spouse. And that goes for both men and women. I see it too often that they want to control that and they want to clip the wings, or by not meaning to, inadvertently, they clip the wings of one another. And in the end, you miss the mark of being the best you can be. Because let me tell you something, each and every person listening to this has something in them special, and most people don't bring it out. Very few people can really tap into that and really let it go. And it
Well,
takes
it's
a
scary.
spouse who understands that and who's willing to support you. And it is like the other day, we planned on being together on Sunday, and I had an opportunity to meet with some very influential people. And I did. I went and met with them, and anybody could have said, no, a spouse could have said, no, we've already planned this. Life does that. Life puts some choices in front of you all the time that you have to make. And it's going to just test to see where you really are. If you really are just wants to kind of float on with the parade, or you want to actually get out and be leading the parade.
I could hear a lot of people probably having a disagreement with you right
Oh,
now.
they will.
And I because I've seen that too. People I know and family and whatnot.
And there's nothing wrong with wanting
That's
that.
fine. Right.
There is nothing wrong with wanting that.
Right.
But we are of a belief that it is our mission here in life to be the best you can be.
Right.
And you owe it to yourself and your spouse to encourage that. And don't let desire to spend time with them rob the world of what they have to offer.
That's very true and insightful.
I just think that when you enter an agreement and you sign on the dotted line, like, let's do this. And, we were comfortable with it. We knew it was right in the time. And so if it gets wrong, then it's not that we didn't belong together. It's that one of us needs to, or both of us have to get back in balance so that we can get back onto the track where we were.
Yeah.
A lot of marriages where like maybe somebody gets into the drugs or maybe somebody makes some decisions and that's kind of what divides it.
Right.
And what started off as good that could have prevailed, you killed, one person or the other, maybe both, smothered the fire.
Well, I feel like really what boils down, it doesn't matter if it's a money issue, if it's an affair, if it's a, money, whatever, spending issue. There's so many issues that can really tank a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the core problem always comes back to selfishness. Sometimes going to bed and getting some rest and not being tired and not being cranky
Can help.
and get a new fresh start on a new day. Sometimes those problems, I'm not you have to resolve every problem before you can go to bed. I don't really love that because sometimes you're just cranky. Right. You're just tired. You're emotional. You're hormonal. You're pregnant. You're whatever.
Right.
And there's some things that there's no resolving.
Yeah.
There's some things that's like, we all have that degree of like, I'm just going to live with this. This is not changing, but it's something I'm willing to handle.
Compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
He compromises with my procrastination and I'm trying to do better. And
what's your compromise for him?
Leaving him alone. Like
letting him work.
Yeah.
Spread
and not
your
bug
wings,
him.
baby.
Bug him when he's trying to, I can see he's really working hard on the computer, on the phone, not being like, hey babe, where should we go out this weekend with the so-and-sos? It's like, it's not the time.
Yeah.
So I sacrifice my personal need to connect.
Right.
Or, that's because us most wives, we just want to, how was your day? And this and that, but he's more like a teenage kid where you say, how was your day? It was fine. It was good. It was busy. And then like 4 hours later, they start saying, you know what I did today? I did this and I did that. It all starts coming out.
Right.
I feel like that's kind of how teenagers are. They come home from school. They're like, fine, one word answers. But then as you're making dinner, or usually when you're trying to go to bed or do something you want to do is when they're like ready to just open up and talk about everything. And you're like, great, let's hear it.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I think I do that.
Your spouse even does not want to know everything you think about everything. And if it's something negative towards them, keep it to yourself. You don't have to say it just because you are married.
Yeah. That's going to be the headline of the show.
Yeah.
Don't say everything that's in your head.
Yeah.
Exactly. Really.
And find the good.
Yeah.
She
Focus
jokes
on
because
the good.
My thing I always say is, well, here's the good part. Or
we did the Enneagram test and his was a FOMO and perpetually.
I have fear of missing out and I'm the internal optimist.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even if it's like the worst thing ever, well, the good thing is, even though we're stuck in this pit, it's not cold down here.
Yeah.
It's like, just whatever. It's just like, okay. The good thing is.
It's good. Good compliments to each other. I mean, you definitely balance each other out from that perspective.
Yep.
That's cool. Anything else you want us or the listeners to know about your marriage, your relationship, your struggles, or your ups? Anything else you want to share?
I think that it's marriage.
Yeah.
It is a give and take. If you think it's going to be all roses, and that's the other thing too, is you got to realize that you're not always going to be young and you're not always going to look the way you look when you're young. And there's just a lot of things. And so
said by the person who's looked the exact same for literally 27 years.
Pretty for the most part, except the hair. Yeah. And here's the problem when you get married, and I kind of touched on this earlier. We are all living a life, our own lives. And then you get married and you merge those two. Be careful not to impose your will onto somebody else's life. You need to make sure that you are still allowing that person to live their life.
Yeah.
Even though you've come together. And when you can manage to focus both of your lives in the same direction, you're unstoppable. But that's the key, is making sure that you're not imposing what you want in your life and what you think is best onto somebody else's life, even though you're your spouse or your child.
Yeah.